Are you thinking of joining the furry fandom, or at least curious about it? I see. So, you may ask now, how do I become a furry? And how do I join the cool kids club? First of all, go to Google Images and search for Furry Art profile pictures. 2. Download the one you like. And then finally 3. Set that profile picture on your every social media. Congrats! You have now officially joined the Furry Fandom. Thank you for watching. Huh? You're still here? You expected something more? Okay then. On all honesty, there's not much I can actually say, since there's no official way to join the furry fandom, or you need to watch videos about learning quote-unquote furry culture. The best way I can describe the furry fandom is that it is like a sandbox game, which anyone that is interested in mainly anthropomorphic characters can now suddenly just say like, yeah, I'm a furry, and now that person is a furry. Yes, it is that simple. But I will quickly come to this topic again. You don't have to watch any videos about it or go the mainstream way of being a furry. If you're simply interested in anthropomorphic characters and identify as a furry, then that is all you need. Again, imagine the furry fandom as a sandbox game. Do however you want with whatever creative, inspiring, desire, purpose, and etc. you have for the furry fandom. Go wild. But what this video will actually be about though, is that there are some important things I want you to know before you interact with the furry fandom, which I want you to know. So let's begin. What is a furry? I want to start with the first topic. I said before I would quickly come back with this, so here I am. Also a good first one to start with. So what is a furry? If you want to know the actual real definition, then it is right here on the screen, but that is not obviously the word you look for. Now on the internet, when you search for the definition of the word furry, it says that it's a person interested in animal anthropomorphic characters. Anthropomorphic means attribution of human traits, characteristics, emotions, and which anthro can also apply to non-animals as well, like plants and objects. It is not exclusive to animals. However, even though it is not a two-legged humanoid animal creature, anthropomorphic creatures can also be applied to creatures that are non-humanoid as well, like a dragon, cat, and horse, so long they talk and reason. But in the furry fandom we call them quote-unquote feral, and they kinda have their own separate category, even though anthropomorphic is actually a right and accurate word for it. But I personally have a problem with this word quote-unquote feral, which I complained about in a previous video, but that is beside the point. You may ask now, does that mean all people that like anthropomorphic animals are furries? No, not really. You can like and appreciate anthro creatures without saying you are furry. Some people may still call you a furry for that, but that is quite a stretch, and I don't agree with that. But if you go the route like the others one out, and then try to claim you're not a furry, at that point it would just make you look silly. I and most people will still call you a furry regardless if you like it or not. But in the end, there's no official classification of a quote-unquote furry. It is different from people. Some will be very liberal in their use, and others are very strict about what is considered a furry. But for me, if you like anthropomorphic creatures and say you are furry, that is good enough for me. Fursona. Fursona! This is one of the first words you will learn in the furry fandom, and you may ask what a fursona is. A fursona is a persona. And what is a persona? Persona is basically a public face how people see you. Like you play a role or character, which then shows how the public perceives you. Like a VTuber as an example, or Nikado Avocado is people that play as a persona. They are reported to not act like this when behind the scene. A fursona is a bit similar to that, but instead you have a character you created that you display on the internet, but can also be in an actual physical form like a fursuit. However, just because you have a fursona doesn't mean you have to act in some kind of character. You can create a fursona and just be yourself behind your character you created. So that is what a fursona basically is. It's an OC you create that is your main character in the furry fandom. They are like your most recognizable thing about you in the furry fandom. See it like your most used username. You call yourself X2000, and that is what all your online friends recognize you as, X2000. Just one thing though, if you change your fursona, it will take a bit of a while for people to get used to your new character. Like in the same way people have called you X2000 for years, and now people need to get used to calling you X3000 instead. Although you don't have to create a fursona to be a furry, you can have no characters at all even, or you could also have multiple characters even, to claim all of them are your fursona. Some furries actually have multiple fursonas, but the reason people have fursonas varies from they just want a cool character to show off and display on the internet, or it is more connected with them on a more personal level, or just straight up otherkins and Therians. So yeah, anyway, that was it about Fursonas. Let's move on. Furry slang words. The Furry Fandom has many slang words you will hear often. I thought of mentioning many of these you will hear and see often, and others will be more niche and uncommon, but still likely you will hear them eventually. So let's mention these. Fursuit equals a costume of an anthropomorphic character. Fursuiter, a person that dresses up with the fursuit. Partial, a fursuit that doesn't cover the entire body. A scaly, a furry which the persona is either reptilian or draconic. Avian, furry that have character of a bird. Kimono, kimono is a word mainly used when it is related to East Asian furries and or their style coming from there and inspired by it. Brownie, a person that is part of the My Little Pony fandom, which is somewhat semi-connected with the Furry fandom. OC, original character. Ref, reference sheet of a character. JCH means your character here. It is about when it comes to commission, about already planned art by the artist to put your character in, usually on an auction. RP means roleplay, most of the time between characters. DNP means do not post, mostly used by an artist to not use their art. DNI means do not interact, usually directed against bad people like zoos and PDFs. Otherkin/Therian is also semi-connected group with the Furry fandom, but explaining these groups would take too long, so let's move on. OO is a text emote that is mainly used when shown interest. It can be used in many contexts by people, but mainly for flirting, excitement and irony. Durg is a slang word for dragons. Yin is a slang when it comes to hyenas. Popufur is a word for a furry that is quite known by many furries. Now here are some inappropriate 18+ and also derogatory words, which you also likely will hear, but in the case you don't want to see it, skip to this timestamp, so you have been warned. Gif means related to the Furry fandom. Mersuit is a fursuit that has been designed to have adult features to it, can we say. Furfan is an offensive word mainly used by people against furries that is probably not part of the Furry fandom and probably dislikes the Furry fandom as well. Gif-en-hell is also another derogatory word. Actual meaning is debated, but probably relates to an offensive word to people that watch Gif, but also being used to furries in no Gif context whatsoever, which doesn't really make any sense, but it is what it is. Cub is about drawn minor characters. I have decided to include this one here, since in most contexts when this word gets brought up, it often is about something negative, I can tell you. And no, I have no comment for this. The last thing to mention is the word anthro and pharaoh. Anthro is when a character is at least anatomically similar to humans, but the word pharaoh gets used when the character is not anatomically similar to humans. And there are so many more slang words, but I think I've mentioned the most important ones, so let's move on. Do not look at furry. Okay, so to quickly clarify, this is not directed against adults already looking at GIF. I assume a lot of minors are going to watch this video, so this is a message to them. Please do not look at. Please don't. It is for your own good. And no, do not try to argue with me. Just don't. And if you watch it already now, when being a minor, stop it immediately now. Consuming stuff like that when being that young can easily develop to an addiction and develop hypersexuality late in life. You still have a developing brain, and getting that poison in your head will screw with your brain development. I'm saying this because I think it is really important to bring this up to not make this mistake, because of how sexual this fandom culture is and how much reference you will see to NSFW stuff, and it gets really hard to avoid at least not see it once per day if you scroll mainstream furry social media. So I'm saying this sincerely, please do not look at NSFW content. I know the majority of minors are probably already looking at it, but still, please do not be part of that majority. In the worst case, it can ruin your life. Addiction is not a joke, it is a trap I have been in. Do not take that path as well. Take the 18+ sign seriously. Trust me when I say this. 5 years later in your life, you will either thank me for this or say I was right. Don't steal art. Okay, so I just want to quickly say that. Remember the joke I made at the beginning of the video? Go into Google Images, download profile pictures. Yeah, if you thought I was being serious and not being sarcastic, please don't do this. You have to know that most of these pictures belong to a person. And I know the younger you are, more likely that you will make this mistake. And this picture, as an example, is basically a meme because of how many new young naive furries that have used it. I understand the appeal of a pretty drawing as a profile picture, and you will probably be just fine taking that art. However, it is about showing a certain level of respect to people. Even though the likelihood they will find out you're using their character online is kinda low, you could possibly put yourself in an awkward position if the owner of that character finds out you're using their character. So you may ask then, what should I do instead? Well, here are some safe options that probably won't put yourself in trouble. If you're going to use a character owned by someone, make absolutely sure that person is okay with using their character. Most of the time they are not, but good for you if you can, I guess. 2. Draw it by yourself or commission it, which either means you need a lot of time to practice art or you have money for buying it, but I assume you are minor, so yeah, no. 3. Use art from already established franchises, then you are pretty much also safe, like using art from Deathwolf, like Ion, Luna, Spyro and other examples. The only thing to be afraid of is these corporations taking action, but the chance of that is close to 0% because it is so common people use popular franchises as profile pictures, and why would they care if a random person, and specifically you, only simply use it as a profile picture? So I don't think you need to worry about that at all, but be careful with fan art though. Most of the time it is fine, but some might not like it if you use it at all. And also, while we're at it, let's talk about furry art. So the Furry Fandom is an extremely art-orientated fandom. It may even have the most artists per capita than any fandom you can imagine. Furscience, which is the only source that has an example, apparently report that 34.7% of furries are artists, which means every third furry is an artist. Now, I just want to quickly say that, well, this is bullcrap. The actual percentage is probably closer to 10-20%. I have it hard to believe every third person is an artist in the furry fandom. Like, come on. Although Furscience has a lot of problems and puts out statistics where people pushing the question harder, like if this is actually true and about the sources. There have been many cases I just feel like this has to be obviously wrong. Anyway, this is off topic. I'm not here to critique Furscience, but it is just I do not fully trust this website. But still, the furry fandom has a lot of artists. Because of the high per capita and just in generally being one of the biggest fandoms on the internet, it will make a lot of furry art everywhere. If you're non-furry that is watching this for some reason, you have probably seen furry art in unexpected places, not about furries at all, and that is because of the sheer number how many it is. Because many people in those fandoms are also furries, you can also see the furry fandom influencing other communities as well, like Wario Cats, Wings of Fire, My Little Pony, FNAF, and etc. because many people in those fandoms are also furries, and also have furry art style influencing it as well. And because the fandom is so art orientated, it is also one of the most anti-AR art communities as well, because it is seen as against artistic expression, creativity, and being soulless. Also a question about copyright and moral issues. If you use AR art, a lot of people in the furry fandom will not like you, I can say. Unless it is Russian furries. They seem to be more tolerable of AI for some reason. Although art is the biggest part of the entire fandom. Without it, this fandom wouldn't exist. It's that simple. So I appreciate all the artists that have formed this fandom identity. Even what level of an artist you are, keep doing you and be creative. Fursuit and conventions. So now I come to the last topic. Now this is something I have the least experience about, nor a qualified person to talk about it, since I do not have a fursuit, nor physically met a person with one, and also hasn't been to a convention, so there are other furry YouTubers with that experience to talk about it instead of me, so watch those creators instead to know what it is like. But what I can say is that there are quite many people that dress up in a fursuit, which is a costume most of the time references their Fursona, which is another way for someone to express themselves or and show their interest. Now, if you think art commissions are expensive, well, you have not seen the worst.
Oh my goodness!
So with these fursuits, they make content, go to conventions, and meet other people like them. In these conventions, it is all related to the furry community and anthropomorphic animals, which people with similar interest all go to. Now, explaining this convention would take a while, but I can say that they are different from each other and going for their own specific themes, so you will just get the basics of it. But what I can say is that people that go to furry conventions are a minority. Most furries are an internet community, mainly focused focused on art and media related to it, and there's an even smaller minority of people that have a fursuit in the first place. So you might look at these fursuit channels that go to furry conventions and think it is a big and important part of the community, but in reality they are really not, and these people represent quite a small minority. So the more you know. Now you have gotten everything needed I have told you for the furry fandom, and in the end how you will spend your time and how you will interact with the fandom is all up to you. As I said at the beginning of the video, see the furry fandom as a sandbox game. Do whatever you want and be as creative as you possibly can. There's no set of social rules you need to follow, just be you. Except of course don't support illegal and immoral stuff, since you know, I think anyone with common sense will see why that is bad. If you made it this far, consider subscribing, liking and commenting below the video. I will also say thank you to my Patreon members, Akumu, Sulchi the Merchant and Dragon Slayer. Thank you so much for your generous support, and I hope you all have a good day.